Okay, we're live.
Hello and welcome to another one of our seminars. We're having these seminars for those of you who have the time to watch this because school is out or you're otherwise limited. I'd like you to welcome you and thank you for joining us. With me, my name is Marty Shaw. I'm a science teacher here at the Delphian School in Sheridan, Oregon. And this is Remi, my colleague, and he's going to be helping us out today. If you have any questions, there's a Q&A on your screen. You can click that and click in a question, and Remi might read your question, and let's see if we can answer it. You might hear birds in the background. I have finches here in my lab, so don't be alarmed. Those are just lab zebra finches. So today we're going to talk about biology and heredity. And I wanted to speak to you about biology and heredity because I think it's such a fascinating area. You know, science is the study of nature and how the world works. And science notices things happening and tries to figure out why. And so this is a heredity and biology. Well, biology is an old subject. Biology is the study of living things. And heredity is a relatively new subject. It's only about 150 years old when things first started moving along in heredity and people first started doing some scientific research about heredity. And I think it's fascinating. It's my favorite subject, and so I thought you might be interested in it too. So first I'm gonna just show you some interesting facts. So I have these little loose leaf binders, and whenever I find something interesting about a subject, I make a copy of it and keep it in this binder. So if students get stuck, I have something that I can show them. And this is a binder, my genetics binder. And it's interesting to note that fruit flies, you know, those are the little flies that buzz around bananas or apples, they have 44% of the same genetic material as you and me, 44%.
Hey Marty, before we jump too far into it, could you tell us what heredity is?
Yeah, heredity is when you get characteristics, when your body looks like that of your mother or father or other relatives. You're taking these, they're passing on certain characteristics, maybe blue eyes or blonde hair or brown hair or skin color. You're getting because your parents gave them to you in their genes. And we'll talk about genes and DNA. Thank you, Remi. Mm-hmm. You share 18% with mice. Mice are mammals. You share 92%. And 98% of your DNA is identical to that of chimps. Now, different people also have a lot of similar DNA, and we'll talk about what that is in a minute. And people have over 99% identical DNA. It's that 1% that makes a difference, that makes for different colors of eyes or hair or skin, or different characteristics, being tall, being short. All of these characteristics you get from your parents. So, first let's take some of the mystery out of this word. Here I have, can you pull this up on the screen? I have these two different chemicals. They're actually two different sugars. And we're getting to it in a minute. Here it is. These are two different sugars. They have 5 sides. They both have 5 sides. They both have carbon in them and hydrogen in them and oxygen in them. Can you see a difference? I highlighted it for you. The one on the left, I think it's your left, is a sugar called ribose. And the one on the right is identical to ribose, but it's missing an oxygen. Can you see that? So this sugar on your right that's missing an oxygen is called deoxyribose because it's missing an oxygen. And so this is the sugar that makes up DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. So it's an acid that's in the nucleus of your cell. Now the nucleus, okay, we can take that off now and we'll go here. And the nucleus of the cell is the very center of a cell. And plants and animals have a nucleus or center of the cell. It's sort of like the brains of the cell. And so this chemical, deoxyribose, makes up deoxyribonucleic acid, this acid made with this sugar that's in the center of the cell. So in case you've heard of DNA before and didn't know what it was, that's what it is. Deoxyribonucleic acid, an acid that has this sugar that's in the center of the cell. And this determines what your body looks like. And so, let's take a look at this.
Sorry, I think we got some questions here.
Okay.
I need to stop the screen share to answer them.
Okay. What do we have?
Let's see. Is that hydrogen with oxygen? I think referring to the OH.
Right. So this is the ribose over here, and here's the OH in the ribose, and here it's identical, except here there's an H. We're missing the O. So it's deoxy, like if you have claws taken off your cat, they call it declawing. So this is the oxygen taken out from this sugar, and so this is deoxyribose.
All right. And do the ribose and deoxyribose work differently?
They do, and we'll get into that in a minute, but that's a good question.
Okay. Last one is, what is a sugar?
A sugar. So a sugar is just a chemical. There are lots and lots and lots of different sugars. So there's a table sugar that you're used to. That's called sucrose. There's a sugar in milk called lactose. There's sugar in fruit called fructose. There's glucose. When you eat starch or things like pasta or breads, then your body breaks that down. So it's just a chemical that has in your body that your body can use for energy.
Cool.
Okay. So I like to look at this picture. This sort of reminds me of a circular staircase. Have you ever seen a circular staircase where you can walk up and you go up to another floor or down from another floor? But it's not a staircase that goes down straight. It sort of goes down in a circle. And that's what this DNA sort of looks like. And these are the parts that have, these are what I like to think of as the steps of the ladder. Can you see the steps of the ladder going across? Well, let's see. How's that? Is that better?
A bit fuzzy, but they can see the image. You just can't make out the words.
Okay, so these are the steps of the ladder where you can go up and down. Of course, it's not a real ladder, but it's this chemical. It's this chemical made up of a few different parts. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. I also wanted to speak to you about DNA because it has relevance with regard to the coronavirus. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a background before we talk about that, a little bit of a background on the DNA. So most of the information in this book is from our course, Biology and Heredity. This is my favorite course here. And so I wanted to share some of the information with you. If you want, you can go to heronbooks.com and get this book and the study guide that goes with it. But this is just a fascinating course. And it explains how flowers reproduce and how people reproduce and lots of other interesting aspects of biology. Okay. So I'm going to bring out my model here. Actually, I'm going to bring this out. This is my model of DNA. Now, of course, DNA doesn't have a white stand like this, and it doesn't have a white tube going through the center, but it does have these parts. This part, this red one over here, says D on it. You know what that D stands for? If you guessed deoxyribose, you're right. This is the sugar deoxyribose. And notice there's one side over here and another side over here. So this is like your spiral staircase. And these are like your steps. And the steps have these letters on it. I'm going to hold that a little close to see. They look, the top one is the green and the yellow. The next one is the blue and the pink. Now, those aren't the real colors of these chemicals, but it just gives you an idea. And these chemicals have names, but we're going to use their initials. This is A and T. A is always joined with T, is joined with G. These stands for other chemicals, but we don't have to get into that right now. We just know that these two always link together and these two always link together. Now there's one other part that makes DNA, and that is this part over here, which is a chemical that has, that's a phosphorus chemical. And so these sugar, the deoxy sugar and the phosphate make up the vertical part or the sides of the steps. And then the A, T, C, and G make up the steps themselves. So you have the vertical part and this part. And this information is in every body cell. Every cell in your body has all of this information. And it's sort of like a little spring. Can you see this little spring that I'm holding up? So the DNA is sort of wrapped around in a circle. Here's a picture of the DNA. Could you bring this up, Remi?
Yeah. And we've got a couple questions in a second.
Okay. So there's, no, this other one. Yeah. So here at the, right under the two L's in cell, you can see an X shape. So it's all curled up. You could take it, okay, let's come back. So this little spring is similar to the DNA that's in every body cell. And if you took it, now I'm just going to stretch this out a little bit and look at how big this little itty bitty piece of wire turned out to be. If you took the DNA, which is in every cell, and you stretched it out, it would be over 6 feet tall, but it's incredibly thin. And this has your information that'll tell your body what kind of things to grow. So we have some questions?
Yeah. Is DNA composed of nuclei?
Well, nuclei is just the plural of the DNA is in the nucleus, but it's not a nuclei. Nuclei is just a plural of nucleus.
All right.
And what's our second question?
But he was curious when you mentioned the relevance between DNA and coronavirus, what you were talking about.
Well, let's get into that in a little bit. I want to tell you a little more about DNA and give you more information. So when you think of eating protein, you probably think of eating hot dogs or hamburgers or fish or things like that, because fish and animals, chickens and pigs and all these animals are a source for our body for protein. But actually your body is made of protein. Your hair, I don't have much of it, but Remi has a lot of it. His hair and skin and muscles and liver and kidneys and all the different parts, not the bones and teeth, but pretty much everything else is made up of protein, Well, how does your body know what to make? How does it know what kind of protein to grow? That's where the DNA comes in. So let's see. Do I have that here? So your body does something, a process where it copies a cell. And it does this so that your body can grow. You're probably bigger now than you were as a child. Your hair grows, your fingernails grow. If you're a man, you have whiskers that grow, a beard that grows. And so this comes about because of a process where cells make a copy of themselves and they grow. And so this is needed. Your body, if you have a cut or something like that, your body, your skin cells could make other skin cells to repair the damage. And so that is called, I think I left that information back there at my desk. So I think I'm just going to get it. I'll be back in a second. Here it is. The name of that is mitosis. So what mitosis is for growth and repair, cells make their identical copies, okay? And here's what they do. The first thing is, let's say you have this DNA. So I could have it all twisty and this sort of thing, like in the picture, but I'm going to show it to you sort of straightened out so you can see it better. So this DNA is arranged in groups that we call chromosomes. And humans have 23 pair of chromosomes in every body cell, 23 pair. But I don't want to take up the space and make it a little more confusing than needed. So I'm just going to show you this, which would have, let's say this whole area is a cell, and this is in the cell. This is the 1, 2, 3 pairs, a long, a short, and a medium. And you get one of these from your mom, and you get one of these from your dad. And don't forget, in a human, there's 23 pair. You might have seen ads on TV for 23andMe, where you send them a sample of your skin or whatever, and they will tell you about your ancestors and where they came from and this sort of thing. So you have 23 pair, one from your mom and one from your dad for each of these chromosomes. And these chromosomes are made of this guy, DNA. Okay? And so what happens when mitosis begins, remember we're talking about growth, how the body's going to grow. So the body makes another one of these and another one of those. And your body makes another one of these and another one of those. And your body, inside the nucleus, all this is happening inside the nucleus, your body makes a copy of it all. And then it splits. And then another cell forms around here, and a cell forms around here. And these are identical cells with identical information on what type of body to make, what type of skin color, hair color, eye color, etc. And so all of this information that you have in every cell of your body is because of the DNA of this big, long chemical that you have that's in the nucleus of the cell. Now let's talk about the coronavirus. So here's the structure of a virus, sort of a picture of it. I don't know if you can see that up there.
We can't get it in focus.
Can't get it in focus. Okay, well, I'll tell you about it. So a virus has inside of it DNA. Most viruses have DNA inside of it. Okay, so this virus has DNA. And what happens is, when it gets into a cell, it grabs onto the cell and it's DNA in your cell. And body making copies of your DNA of what you should look like, it makes copies of the virus. And so it sort of takes over what the cell is making. It grabs onto it and it sticks its DNA, its information on what it should make. DNA is like a recipe. You could think of it as a recipe. And it'll tell your body what to make. And so when the virus puts its DNA inside of the cell says, okay, this is the DNA I'm instructed to make. And it makes virus. It makes more viruses, and they get more and more and more. And then they can come and create problems with your body, make you sick. Now here's where washing helps. So this is a picture of a virus, and it has this covering. Here's the DNA, and it's in the middle here. And here's the virus. It has a covering here, which is fat or oil and protein. And so we discussed the other day that soap has one end that loves water, and the other end loves oil. And so what happens is the end of the oil goes in here to this oil and helps break it up. And that's why when you wash, you need to wash with soap and you need to rub, because what you're doing is you're pushing the soap-loving end or oil-loving end of the soap in here, and you're helping break this down. And you're breaking, you're making a hole in it. So here's the soap that has made a hole, and then the other end can come in and it can surround this DNA and rinse it away, okay? So that's why washing is so important, and this is how viruses work. Now there's something else. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. We have a little more time.
We've got a few questions too.
Sure.
Before we get into that.
Yes.
Okay. Is it true that there is a debate over whether viruses are alive?
Well, I don't know that there's a debate. Most scientists feel that they're not alive because they don't reproduce, they can stay inactive. It's only when they get inside of a cell that they can become active and reproduce. They don't breathe. So most scientists believe that viruses are not a living thing. Great question.
Thank you. And how do vaccines affect viruses?
Vaccines mainly affect bacteria, which is a kind of a germ that's different. Germs are living things. But there are different viruses that can prepare your cells and say, okay, look out for this guy, get ready. If you see him, attack him. And so that's sort of what these vaccines can do. It can alert your cell and your body that if they see something like that, to have your body's defenses get together and attack the virus before it takes a foothold and grabs onto the cells.
Okay. And how does the immune system come into play with viruses?
Well, just that. The immune system eventually will start recognizing this is not a natural part of the body. And so it'll start attacking it. And you have different kinds of cells in your body, different types of white blood cells that are used to fight disease and infection. And eventually your body will catch on. And if your body's not too damaged, your body will win the fight and you'll get rid of the virus. If your body is very old, or if you're having problems anyway, maybe you had an operation and you don't breathe well, or you were a smoker. Smoking isn't good for you. If you're smoking, you could have a diseased lungs, and parts of your body could be diseased. And so then your body isn't strong enough to fight the virus. And then you become a victim. Okay? Now, this is what a cell looks like. Of course, cells are incredibly tiny. This is a drawing of one. Could you bring that up on the screen, Remi? Yeah. Nope, this one. Yeah. So this is a poster that I have in my lab, and it's about cells. These are human cells. And if you'll notice, right above the purplish nucleus are these little red dots. So these little red dots, right, these little red dots are where protein is made. So the protein is made in these little red dots, and then it can go and be used for other things. You have lots and lots of these little red dots. They're called ribosomes. So these ribosomes are where the protein's made. So how does the information, which is in DNA, in the nucleus, how does this information go all the way to the ribosomes? Do you think it checks it on Facebook, or does it fax it or text it? How does the information get all the way from the nucleus all the way to where the protein's being made? Well, I'll tell you and not leave you in mystery. So remember before, we were talking about the ribose and the deoxyribose, and how the deoxyribose is part of the DNA over here. Well, what happens is your cell can make little messages, and it uses ribose instead of deoxyribose to send these messages. And so the cell, the nucleus makes a copy, and the information goes out. It's not DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid, it's RNA, ribonucleic acid. So this nucleus sends out this ribonucleic acid over here into the ribosomes where the protein's made, and it gives them the information on what protein to make. Now, let's get back to this picture of our virus. Here it says genetic material. It doesn't say DNA, because some viruses have DNA in it, and some viruses have RNA in it. The stuff that has ribose as the sugar. And so they're almost identical, except the DNA stays in here. And in any case, if this ribonucleic acid, RNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, gets into the cell, it'll still give your cell the information, make this kind of a chemical. And what the cell does when it's infected by the virus is it makes more viruses. And then the viruses go to other cells, and before you know it, you're just making a whole bunch of viruses and feeling pretty rotten. Do we have any questions, Remi?
We do. Is there any relationship between your DNA and what type of viruses you could contract?
Not that I'm aware of. I think viruses will just, if they get into a person, they could get in from sneezing. If you're around a person who sneezes, you could breathe them in, because these viruses are incredibly tiny. So if you're around someone like that, or even if someone has, maybe they blow their nose and then they touch a door handle, and a little while later you touch the door handle, well, you have it on your hands now. And then if they tell you not to touch your eyes when you're, because of the virus going around, because if you have some on your hand from touching a door handle and you touch when you wipe your eye, now that RNA can go into your body right here. Or if you touch your lips, it can go right into your body that way. And so this is how people get infected. So that's why they say, keep a safe distance. So it's 6 feet apart is the distance that is recommended, because that way if someone coughs or sneezes, hopefully they're covering at least a little bit when they sneeze, and they're not sneezing toward you, they're sneezing away from you. This 6 feet away is a safer distance to be, rather than close up. Or people that kiss, in Italy, people greet each other not with a handshake or a high five or hitting elbows, there's hugging and kissing. And so, which is wonderful and fine, but not when there are diseases like virus or bacteria that can travel from person to person with this close contact.
All right. I've actually got several, but we'll see what we can get to. Are there any viruses that can be passed down genetically?
Viruses are not passed down genetically, no. They're something that you pick up. Not to my knowledge, they're not passed on genetically. There are other things that are passed on genetically.
How likely is it to infect your system?
Well, if you have it on your hand and you don't have any cuts on your hand, the best thing to do, grab some soap and water. That's why it's a good idea to wash your hands regularly. You've probably been sick before. It's no fun being sick, especially if you're sick for a week with headaches and runny nose and weakness and all of this stuff. So that's why it's a good idea to wash your hands early and often. Wash your hands regularly. So if you do happen to touch a surface or a door handle or a glass where someone has this virus, your skin prevents the virus from getting through. but you still have it on your hands. So this is the time to go over to the sink and get some soap and wash any virus or bacteria or anything like that. 20 seconds, you want to rub vigorously, strongly, so that you can break up that virus and the soap can do its thing. And then you rinse it off and it's down the drain and your hands are clean again. So that you could touch, if you have an itch or you want to wipe your eye, you can if your hands are clean.
Okay.
What else do we have, Remi?
So how do sanitizers help with fighting the sickness?
Good question. So I'm going to get one of my sanitizers here. So here's this sanitizer, and it's made of 63% alcohol. So this has alcohol in it. Well, alcohol kills germs. And if you wash your hands with a sanitizer, it'll kill or help break apart these things that are on your hands that could get inside your body and make you sick.
Cool. Can immunities be passed down genetically?
Boy, that's a great question. I really don't know. I know there are things that can be passed down genetically. So if you have a gene, let's say this is your gene, and this is a man's gene, and this is a woman's gene, and they have a child, they get married, they have a child, so the man gives this to the child, and the woman gives this, and the man gives this one to the child. It's a little more complicated than that, but they each give part of their genetic information, part of their DNA to their children. And so some people have a tendency to have a little stronger body or a little more immune system than others. So that could be a reason why certain people are more likely to get it. If you have weak lungs or weak whatever parts of your body, that's what these viruses can attack. So yeah, it would have something to do with it. We have any other questions?
Yeah. So some people have said that you can have this virus for a week or two without showing symptoms. Could you explain how that could be?
Yes, so that's a great question. So what happens is you could get this virus, but maybe it's kind of slow reproducing. Maybe you only get a little bit, one or two of these little viruses. Then what happens is it'll take time for them to, find a cell. Well, this isn't the one. This is more like it. It'll take them time to find a cell and get their information into the cell, whether it's DNA or RNA, deoxyribo or ribose. And it'll take time for it to get into the cell. Maybe you have a strong immune system and your body comes and recognizes some of these guys and starts killing them or breaking them apart. But some of them are still alive. So that's why some people will take a long time. If you have a healthy immune system and you don't get a lot of the virus, then that could take a longer time for it to develop.
That's all.
Okay, so let's see. Here is that course booklet. We only have a few more minutes, but I wanted to see if I could show you some interesting things. So here is a picture in the book of the DNA. And this shows you the DNA makes RNA. DNA is in here, sends a little messenger RNA over here, and it makes proteins. It's really a fascinating subject, and there's a lot of information. Ooh, this is interesting. So sometimes, whether from chemicals or from radiation, ultraviolet, whatever, different things, it can cause some of these steps in the ladder, these steps here, to break. I don't know if you can see this, but there's sort of a picture of one of the steps that broke. And that can cause your body to make something different. I remember watching a fascinating TV show, and they had a picture of, they noticed there was this mutation. There was a break in some of the steps here that make up the DNA. And some scientists wanted to figure out, what does that affect? And they noticed in gorillas that that wasn't like that. Gorillas didn't have this mutation over in part of the DNA. It had regular, what I call steps, the regular chemicals that come across. But in humans, it was missing. And so they had a way of figuring out what that particular mutation affects. And it was fascinating. They found out it affects the jaw. It affects the hole that you have in your jaw and the size of the muscle that goes through. Now, if you have apes have this tremendously big hole in their jaw and this tremendously strong muscle that goes in there because they're chewing all day and they have a really ferocious bite. They have to chew on plants. And so they have this very strong muscle. And so what happened is their lower jaw is connected with their head by this tremendously strong muscle that keeps their skull sort of smaller. We developed this mutation that wound up to be beneficial. True, we don't have a jaw muscle and a hole for that muscle as large as the ape, but we don't have this tremendous pressure on our skull, which allowed our brains to grow. It gave them more room because they're not being pulled down so hard. And it gave us the opportunity to have larger brains and develop that way. So some mutations can be beneficial, like that one. Some mutations cannot be beneficial. You could have, here's a picture. You might have seen one of these. I have zebra finches over there, and some of them, one of them is white. So where did that one white zebra finch come from? Just like this white bear being born from a mother who is black, who's a black bear, you can have a mutation. This bear had a mutation which allowed it to have a white baby. Now, if this is happening in this black bear is going to be able to hide better and be a better hunter. This white bear won't survive that well. But if this happens in northern Canada or Alaska, this little white bear is going to be a much better hunter because it will blend in and it'll be able to camouflage. The black bear along the ice, you'll be able to see it miles away. But I've heard that polar bears, when polar bears hunt, they know to put their white paw in front of their black nose, so you can't even see that. And so sometimes mutations will give an advantage, and sometimes it'll give a disadvantage. Do we have any more questions, Remi?
We do have a couple. Still about viruses. So if a virus entered your system, would it inevitably take action, or?
Chances are a virus will start to reproduce. If you have a very strong immune system and a very healthy body, it's not that big a deal. Your symptoms might be mild. That's why a lot of the people who have died from the coronavirus, or even a regular flu virus, are older people. Maybe they're in a nursing home, or maybe they have problems with their body to start with, and they have a weak immune system that's not able to fight it. What else do we have, Remi?
Okay. So when the immune system is fighting it, does it kill it, or does it break down the DNA?
It breaks it up and it breaks it down. You can't really kill it because it's not alive to begin with, actually, but it breaks it up and smashes it into pieces.
Okay. And what happens if you, let's see, don't build an immunity to the virus and get it later on in life?
If you don't have an, well, that's why we were talking about mutations a minute ago. Well, it seems like every year the flu virus or some type of virus changes or mutates into something a little different, and our bodies don't recognize it as something that's bad. And so that's why we have almost every winter, it seems, these viruses that are different from the year before, that our bodies don't recognize. And so they can come in, and until our bodies start saying, wait, something's wrong here, and start looking for these guys, they can start making us ill. Okay.
Sorry, do we have an online PDF of that one?
We don't have, of which one?
A Biology and Heredity.
We don't have one right now. If you want, you could send in a request, or you could contact Heron Books at heronbooks.com and order yours. You know, we all have some time now, those of us that are not going to school. We have a little extra time, and you have a choice of two things. You could either be bored and just watch TV or play games, or you could be curious. You could develop a curiosity about something. Gee, I wonder how that works. You know, the cure for boredom is curiosity. So I'm hoping you'll take this opportunity to be curious about the world or how things work, or you'll take this opportunity and make the best of it. So thanks for watching, and hope to see you again.